My story. Married almost 28 years. Came back from Iraq almost 2 years ago. Bronze Star, Combat Action Badge. I was damn proud to have served in combat as one of the old guys. Kept the marriage fires gone the entire time I was there. Came home and it was like a honeymoon. Our marriage could not have been better. Good communication, intimacy, etc. Then Facebook. Our agreement was that anyone of the opposite gender who friend requested us had to meet with the OS approval. 3 days before my B-day, a dude friend requested my wife. No problem. He had a family. Father was a minister. He was involved in his church. I come home from work and it is Friday and my B-day. My wife and I have plans for the night, but I am not feeling well. My 2 boys, in their 20s, are there to greet me and wish me a happy B-day like they do every year. Hugs. Then my wife comes up to me and kisses me and says, "Hey, you are burning up." I am sick and end up going to bed. Keep in mind that my wife is perky, excited to see me, and happy. The next morning, we were going to buy an antique hutch for our business and I get up not feeling well and my wife gives me the cold shoulder and tells me to go myself. This is entirely out of character for her. We do a lot of things together and she was excited about the purchase but blew it off. I am not feeling well and tell her I will go myself. As I am driving to buy the antique, I end up driving to the hospital instead. They think I have Rocky Mountain spotted fever. The doc was correct, and they want to admit me. I call my wife and she is concerned about the car and how will I get it home. What the hell, she does not care that I am sick. Again, not my normal caring wife. I am sent home instead with a treatment of pills for the next month or so. I go to bed and my normally caring wife is home but absent the entire weekend while I am lying in bed sick. My wife has changed almost overnight. From that weekend forward for over a month my wife hardly talks to me, always on her computer or texting on her phone. Breaks down after a few weeks and says she needs me in her life and I tell her that I have not changed but she has. Breakdown lasts a few minutes but that is all that is said. Over a month later my wife and I decide to use my nephew's hot tub for a quiet night together. My nephew moved and his house is for sale and we have permission to use his hot tub until the house is sold. It is a Friday night around 9 p.m. and my wife decides to take a bath before going to the hot tub. I go downstairs and my computer is closed and hers is open. I decide to check the news, emails, etc. I have never checked my wife's computer. I got the shock of my life. She was still logged on. I did not know her password. Her email was opened and she was pleading with this dude not to break up with her. That she loves him, cares for him, has emotions for him. There is wicked dirty talk. This was the Facebook friend that I said okay about. I confront my wife. She blows it off as flirting and I go over the emails and tell her that it is not flirting, that she is saying she loves this guy. She talks me into going to the hot tub and makes love to me. It is a 3-day weekend and I decide not to talk to her at all. I am mad, feel used. I go to work Tuesday and I am given a gift from God. I can't do this stuff now but I hack and figure everything out about her accounts. I get all kinds of stuff. It is like I the MIT nerd from hell. Even on a government computer which would normally not give me access, I get everything I need. I confront my wife. All she does is lie, lie, lie. I know just about everything and she just keeps lying about it until I show her proof. Then she confesses. This goes on about everything. I question her. She lies. I show her the evidence. She confesses. I have to drag out the truth from her. Till this day she did not confess anything unless I brought it up. Then she would lie until I showed her the proof. I go into counseling. She does not. We talk every day. She shows remorse. I forgive her. We were making progress. I am tracking her computer. She knows this. We have a great 9 months or so and then red flags. I could write a book. All the signs are here again. This time my youngest son, 25 years old, brings up the issue. That mom is not acting right. I think she might be cheating. My youngest son and my wife are very close and he thinks the world of her. So for him to approach me about this is alarming, but I tell him that I already know and share with him about the past and do not confront her about it. The signs started again around April. Just a few moments ago my youngest son calls me and says he put a GPS tracking device on his mother's car. Legally my car. He activated it last night on his car and the program is fantastic as I have been following him around all day and I work in another city. I took a great job in another city about a month ago and live there during the week. I will do this until we buy a second house. So, I only come home on weekends. Signs. 1. My wife became distant emotionally and physically around April. 2. My wife always keeps her cell phone on and handy. Always calls back or responds with a text within about 15 minutes. Always jumps to get her phone when it rings. About 2 months ago she stopped paying attention to her phone. Several times. This is what tipped my son off that her behavior changed. My wife called my 2 sons to tell them not to bother her since she is going out shopping in the evening. My wife does not shop in the evening. Once or twice she even did her hair before she went shopping. My wife always puts her hair back and puts on a cap to shop. She never ever does her hair when she goes out shopping. Never. She turned her phone off. I am tracking this. She never ever turned her phone off. Never. She has gone several times for over 6 hours. about 5 p.m. to around 11 p.m. Does not answer the phone during this time. Then calls me, around 11 p.m., to tell me she was out shopping. Several weeks ago, she was supposed to pick up our oldest son, special needs. She called him and said, "I will pick you up late. Don't bother me. I will be in contact with you later." My son walked home through a bad part of town. He called me and told me the story. My wife was always there for our son. What the hell? Her excuse to me was, "I was out shopping, went to pick up our son and he was not there." She told me she just left the mall. It was 10:45 p.m. The mall closes at 9:30 and it takes 5 minutes to get to where my son was. Now she was waiting for my son at 10:45. What was she doing? She was shopping for Christmas lights for 6 hours for our business. My wife gets new lights every year. My youngest son brought this up. She goes every year to do this. But she goes during the day and buys the cheap ones. We throw them away each year. She is quick about it as she hates to shop. Not this year. I told her over the weekend that Kmart has the lights she is looking for and she looks at me and says, "Don't you remember? We bought lights earlier in the year when you took me to an army conference." I already knew that, but again, I am not confronting her. My youngest son brought up the fact that mom is not answering the phone when she has gone shopping for 6 hours, and he said the story of the Christmas lights was lame as he knows her patterns. 3. My wife rarely has sleep with me when I come home on the weekends. My wife has always been active, but the few times we had bonded during the last month she is like an animal. Last week she grabbed my penis and said, "Give me that thing," while it is big and hard. She has never done that before. She is not a prude, but she has never done this before. 4. Her weight is down, same as last year when she did this. She is not eating. She is down to a size 0. My wife is normally a size 2. She is not anorexic but will be if she loses more weight. She claims stress and that she wants to look better. 5. She is looking gaunt, like last year. 6. She told me on a recent phone call that she is running because she says she has all this energy. My wife never ran in her life and she is 50 years old. When I am home, she is tired and goes to bed early. Says she has no energy. 7. When I am home on the weekends, she stays busy with chores around the home. My wife rarely did housework on the weekends and always spent time with me. Now I am not home during the week to slop things up. So again, what the hell? 8. Several weeks ago I heard a muffled cell phone ringing in the room where I was sitting. Even my dog started to bark. My phone was in my shirt pocket and my wife's phone was next to me and it was not those phones. I mentioned it to my wife, who shortly after I heard a cell phone ring a second time came down from upstairs, and she looked alarmed and said, "Oh." It was my son's phone ringing upstairs. I pretend not to pay much attention to it. I go outside and call my son, who happens to have his phone on him miles away. She brings it up the next day, once in the morning and once in the evening, that I heard my son's phone. What the hell? I did not bring up the issue and pretended to blow it off by saying, "Yay." It must have been his phone. His phone rings differently anyway than what I heard. I believe she is smarter this time and has a second and traceable phone. I wish I would have torn the room apart, as I now believe it was stuffed down one of the cushions. 9. Thanksgiving, I have to order from Cracker Barrel. She always cooked a big meal. I have to order food for my wife, my 2 sons and myself. She will not even order the food and I am in another city right now. 10. Her computer broke in July, smashed on the floor. She blamed it on the dogs. She was watching her brother's house, an hour away, while he, his wife and 5 kids spent a month in Europe. She insisted that I buy her a new laptop right away, even though she could use her brother's computer. I had to get overnight delivery. No software tracking on her new computer and I just let it go. One agreement we had was she was supposed to keep all her history. She has her new computer set up where the history is not kept at all. 11. She does not call me. In the past she would call me several times a day. If I do not call, there is nothing. When I do, she is short with me. I called her recently and my youngest son was there. I was excited that I will be getting another promotion in less than a year. I was elated as I already got a big promotion when I transferred here, and now I am being told that I will be promoted once I pass an exam in April. My son told me that he was there and my wife just kept rolling her eyes and had me on speakerphone and was not interested. My son told me that mom always gave me her undivided attention when I called, but this time she could have cared less. I remember that call as when I hung up the phone I was pissed because I could tell that she could care less. 11. There is more, but this post is already too long. I am doing the 180, chilling, waiting for her to slip up. I am not the emotional wreck I was last year. I will track her car, and my son will track her as well. We have several plans in place once we find that she is not where she says she was or is. I think she is seeing someone in a town nearby. My wife is miserable, not her happy, loving, perky normal self. I want something tangible. I want hard evidence to avoid any shadow of me being paranoid or irrational. I want this for me. If the GPS shows that she is at X and she tells me that she is at Y, that is all I need. Once I have the evidence, I will not tell her about it. I will simply file for divorce. She does not deserve an explanation. My sons do, she does not. Unfortunately, our assets will go 50-50. My attorney believes that I may even end up paying alimony. Go figure. Depends on the judge, and we do not decide who the judge is. She may even get part of my military and civilian retirement. My attorney is certain that she will get it. Again, go figure. It is not really legal to hide assets, and honestly all ours at this time are shared. I have been advised to be clean on our finances, as it will be hell to pay in court if I show any type of misconduct. Marital misconduct has no bearing on how the courts in our state divide up our assets, though it can have an effect on alimony. So, the cleaner I am, the better off I could be. No promises. Financially, I will take a big hit at the beginning, but in the long run I will be okay. Unsure of how my wife will fare. Her brother is very wealthy and they were very close up till about a month ago. I can't figure out why, but that relationship is odd right now. I think he may have gotten wind of something and has really distanced himself from her. He left the ministry after getting burned out a few years ago, and he is fairly perceptive. He recently came into money after his baby daughter died early this year, and they were awarded a very large sum of money. Millions, for medical malpractice. In the long run though, he will take care of her no matter what she has done. A week later, my youngest son installed a cheap GPS unit on the car my wife drives. He was thinking she was having an affair, as was I. I live in another city during the week and come home on weekends. My youngest son had to replace his radiator and came to our home on Tuesday, November 29th, to work on it. My wife left home around 4 p.m., and my son called me at work and told me that she was going shopping, but it did not make sense. So, we both watched her movements on our computers. She quickly was heading in a direction she never went before. In about half an hour she was at the work site of the guy I suspected that she was cheating. Facebook tells you a lot about people. She was there about half an hour and then drove off to a little Amish church in the country. I called her and told her about my day, and she said that she was out. I said, "Oh, you are out. Where are you shopping?" She told me that she was at Walmart, which was about 30 miles from where her GPS had her located. I told her I love you, and she said I love you, and we hung up. I was shaking. She lied, no surprise, but if she told me she was buying special dog food I would have believed her, because I, not her, buy dog food at an Amish store in that area. I called my son. He said, "Dad, we got her." I was going to let this go on till the weekend, but I had enough evidence. I told my son I was going to call her. I am 3 hours away. So, I called her and confronted her. She went ballistic, stating, "Why am I accusing her of cheating when she is at Walmart?" I told her where she was and who was in the car with her. She cursed me out and says she will not stand for this and is going to leave Walmart and go home. She hung up. I called her back, and to my surprise her phone came right on, and my wife and her boyfriend did not know it. I heard everything. My wife said, "How does he know I am at your place? How does he know where I am and who I am with?" etc. It was sweet. I was on my way home and my wife did not know it. She called me several times and berated me for accusing her of cheating. After many hang-ups, she finally admitted having met with the guy. I called several friends and her older brother on my way home, and they talked me out of doing something I would regret or end up in jail for doing. Fortunately, I had a 3-hour drive to sort things out. When I arrived home, my wife was shocked, and I called my 2 boys to be with me, ages 27 and 25. I told them the whole story. My youngest son acted like he knew nothing. The 3 of us talked very firmly to my wife for about 2 hours. Yes, they yelled at their mother. Her initial reaction was that she did nothing. The boys were the best at knocking her defenses down, and I confronted every lie. It was great teamwork without having practiced. My boys yelled at their mother and asked her, "What did Dad do to deserve this?" My wife said, "Your dad did nothing. I am to blame." I left, and now I'm back in the city where I work and can't sleep. I told her I am filing for divorce and will sell the house. I contacted her boyfriend and his wife. I contacted some of my wife's family. I am going to let her entire family know. I will be contacting the boyfriend's pastor, as the boyfriend says he is a true follower of Jesus. I am ordained and served as a pastor and chaplain for many years, clinically trained, etc. But this is not the time to stay professional. Let the light shine on the stinking vampires and see them scurry. My wife was my soulmate and the joy of my life. Married 28 years. We have an antique business, and I am a professional counselor and a part-time minister, mainly doing consulting work for churches. She had an emotional affair in April and May last year. It was beyond what was acceptable, and she did a similar thing 12 years ago with 3 guys online. She killed something inside me last year. I survived a combat tour in Iraq, and even war was not as rough as what I went through last year. I forgave her but have not trusted her since. Not an ounce of trust. She can be very vivacious, charming, and funny. She was a good mother to our boys. I know what folks will say here, but my boys adored their mother. That is why I made sure the boys were with me last night when I came home. I can almost see inside my wife's head, and I knew when she was getting ready to cheat. She kept looking at this guy's page on Facebook over and over again. Our agreement was to be transparent. If she felt tempted, she agreed that she would say something to me, share passwords, etc. Slowly over time she changed her passwords. She would tell me, but she did not tell me what they were. I suppose if I asked, she would have given them to me, but the agreement was to share without asking. I am in counseling for war trauma and my marriage issues. My one counselor is a great clinician, and he predicted that my wife would do it again, and he never met my wife. He told me, "Counselor, what is your wife doing to fix things?" I said nothing. She does not go for counseling and she acts like everything is normal, even though my guts were ripped out of me and I am still hurting. He said my wife is needy and nothing I do can fill it. He says we all have unmet needs and we make choices on how to get those needs met or to live with unmet needs. He said no one can meet all the needs of their spouses. How we live with those unmet needs shows the character of a person. I have an attorney who I am paying and I have great support from friends. They all have been here or have worked professionally in these issues. My attorney and others know my wife. They would all also like to see us work things out, though they support any decision I make, keeping my options open. My WS told me that they just kissed, nothing more. I am in investigation mode big time. I am going to order a black light flashlight. I found used wipes and paper towels that were stuffed between the seats. My wife is a clean freak with her car. Also, she normally just has a thin blanket spread out in the back of the SUV, over the carpet, to protect the car when we put antiques in the back. I found that there was the normal blanket and on top of that a sleeping bag and a thick quilt spread out like a bed. I told my wife that it was a love nest. She told me that it was put there for our dog when she transported him to her brother's house in August. We crate our dog when we transport him in the car. There is padding in the crate. There is no need to add 2 more thick layers of padding under the crate. Additionally, the sleeping bag and the thick quilt was not in the car the weekend prior to this. We went out and bought some antiques and I was looking for extra padding and there was just the one blanket in the back. My boys, age 25 and 27, do not want me to divorce her. I am trying to honor their wishes at this time. I am paying an attorney and started the process, but that is all on hold. I am trying to see if there is any other evidence so I can present it to the boys. My wife called me today and said our youngest son acted odd when he was over visiting with her on Monday and he did not call her yesterday, and she says she fears losing him. After this past weekend, I did most things wrong. I told her I would be willing to work things out, that I loved her, etc. I was drunk almost the entire weekend and was just numb and in shock and was not in my right mind. The whole thing has hit me like a ton of brick when I drove back to the city where I work at on Sunday night. I believe it hit my youngest son on Monday. I think we are out of shock right now and are seeing things more clearly. Man, this sucked. There was no dog on these blankets. My wife transported the dog months ago in a crate. The crate has its own padding in it. She is using that as an explanation as to why there are big thick blankets in the back of the SUV and just goes to show how lame it is. The crate is large. We have a golden retriever, and the crate has a solid plastic bottom with a pad in it. We rarely transport the dog. The last time was in August. My wife always has a thin blanket spread out in the back of the SUV, and if we have to put the back seats down to make more room for hauling stuff, my wife will make sure the blanket covers the entire back to include the additional space created by putting the seats down. I helped her with the crate. There was just the thin blanket and there was no other additional padding needed. The weekend before the confrontation we bought antiques and I remembered that there was just the one blanket in the back because I needed extra padding to protect some things and there weren't any other blankets in our SUV. This past weekend after the confrontation I saw that she added a thick sleeping bag, the kind that can be unzipped and used as a large blanket, and a thick quilt. These were spread out on top of the blanket that is normally in our SUV. They were spread out and folded neatly where they went up against the back seats. Just fold down the seats, unfold the blankets, and you have an instant bed. I know that my wife prepared a bed in our SUV to have fun. She denied it and says it was there when she transported the dog months ago. She has told me something more could have happened that night, but my phone call interrupted them. I called my wife and confronted her within a few minutes of them parking the vehicle in a church parking lot. I know the time exactly. While they were driving to the church, I called my wife, not letting her know yet that I knew where she was and with whom, and we talked about our day and exchanged I love yous. She said she was at Walmart, 30 miles away from her location. They pulled into the church parking lot and were there for 5 minutes. I called her and confronted her. We talked for 4 minutes. I called her again exactly 2 minutes later, talked more, yelling and screaming from her. After she hung up, I called her right back and her phone answered, and I heard her and her boyfriend talking for minutes as they were flying down the road, and she dropped him off near his house and headed home. If they had gone full physical, it would have happened very fast. I still believe that they did not engage more that night as they were only parked for 5 minutes. About half a week later, I just wrote the novel of my life about what happened over the weekend and saved it. Long story short, she confessed to everything around 3 early Sunday morning. Full-blown affair. I am going to give it a chance, but I have all the paperwork done for a divorce. It was one hell of a weekend. My wife is being tested today for STD and pregnancy. At age 50, she called her 3 brothers who are all pastors, one Baptist, one evangelical, and one Pentecostal, and told them what she did. This would be too long to explain, but I did nothing to deserve this. I was and am a great husband to her. She is one messed up person, and if she can't fix it, it is over. The fact that she called her brothers and told them what she did, and that I had nothing to do with what she did, spoke volumes to me. She also told our youngest son, He just sat and listened and walked out the house pissed. I don't think I can ever trust her, and I am trying to determine if I can live with that. My update: I know it is long. Sorry. Came home Friday drunk. My wife kept insisting that she wanted me to come home. I did not want to come home. I am living several hours away during the work week. I am not a nasty drunk, and when I got home, I did not unpack anything from my truck. I stopped at a store on my way home and bought a card that had a history of things on her birthday. Candy that her grandmother uses to give her, etc. When I got home, I asked her to go into our family room. I explained to her the significance of each gift, that on the day she was born her parents had many high hopes for her. I took a picture of her father and handed it to her and said when he was dying 7 years ago, he pulled me aside and asked me to always take care of his daughter. I shared that her mother did the same thing prior to her death earlier this year. Her parents adored me and I loved them. They were responsible with us reconciliation 12 years ago when she did something similar. They knew their daughter. I told her that the only reason I came home was because of a promise I made to them, and I really do not want to be there. The night was just small talk. I went to bed at 1 a.m. and got up around 4 a.m. She got up around 9, said it, and just walked around the house all day like a lost zombie puppy. I was getting more and more pissed. I wanted to unload but kept my mouth shut. I was drinking and drunk. I kept checking the computer as I had gotten the account to our checkbook online. Could see when she met with the guy as she used her debit card to get gas, etc. near his house, a place that is 20 miles away from our home and a place she never goes. Found out she went to the liquor store and bought liquor. She never does this. Knew she bought a phone. I am not saying a word. I go out to a bar, but I could not stay. My younger son called me and said do not anything stupid. I went home and started to drink. I was listening to Tom Waite in our family room drinking. I never drink in the house. I was in total pain. My wife comes down to the family room, insisted I go to bed with her around midnight on Saturday. We got into bed. I wanted some bonding but did not say anything. She reaches over and taps me on the shoulder and says goodnight, rolled over. I thought, what the hell? I lost it inside. I got up and said I can't sleep, and I told her I can't take it. I told her that I need to come home on the weekends and have fun, and her just walking around the house like a zombie will not cut it. I told her I am leaving and will be back home after the New Year's. She said she did not want me to leave, that this is my house too. I could not take it any further. No remorse. I packed up the little bit of stuff I brought into our house and was ready to leave at 1 a.m. I have had 3 hours sleep in past 2 days and I was drunk. My wife stayed in bed and fell asleep. Truthfully, she was exhausted as she was not sleeping. No pity on my part. As I was leaving the house, some Christians will understand this. There was something like a voice telling me to check the credit card. What the hell? Am I cracking up? I forgot we had one and I found it. I honestly do not know where my wife keeps our account stuff, and like a robot I was led, I think by God, to a drawer. One I never go into because I never had a need to look in it, and there under a stack of papers was all our online account information. I got my computer out and lo and behold I found she had a secret phone account. She lied to me and my sons about this. No surprise, right? I went upstairs and woke up my older son, went into our bedroom and turned on the lights and woke my wife up. I started to throw her clothes out of her closet and told her to leave as I know all about the phone. I was cursing. My wife was defiant, saying she would not leave. I disabled her car. She was pissed. My son was about to call the cops and I told him just stay with me and witness what I am doing, as I would not harm mother. I showed my wife all the actions I had taken for a divorce and she was shocked. She fell to the floor and grabbed my leg and was begging me not to leave or divorce her. I told her to get herself downstairs and come clean. I started to smash pictures of the two of us she had around the room. I started to burn our wedding album and my son took it from me. I handed my wife my wedding ring. My wife told me to sit down. I grabbed another bottle of booze and sat down. I told her that this is her last chance to come clean or I will finish the divorce papers on Monday. She lost it and opened up like a floodgate. Confessed everything. There is a hell of a lot more to write as all this went on for hours, but I have no doubt that she told me everything. I told her that if I ever found out that she left anything out or the answers she gave me were wrong, there will be no discussion. I was not bluffing about the divorce but will give R one chance. Right now, she is having blood work done for STD and pregnancy and I am 3 hours away. The phone, I believe she claims she threw it away weeks ago. The trash is already gone. I checked it. She claims she does not know the number. I do not know my cell phone number unless I look it up. I do not know how to look this up. I need to know the account number and she claims she did not set up an account online. All I need to do is find the phone number and the account number and find out if there is a way to access the account. A few weeks later, my WS has memory issues and that is a fact. Has no bearing on the fact that she cheated by choice. Years ago, we bought a car in Florida. We left it at her brother's house as we had flown down with my parents on vacation. My WS and my son flew down about a month later, and they drove back up north. She has no memory of this. The fact that I would like her to tell me the entire truth and perhaps she does not remember, and it is frustrating. I started the process for D and it is on hold. She has already agreed to turning the house, cars all over to my name, and she hasn't agreed to a post-nup. I am in the process of all these things and it was not a threat. I have decided to take the hard road and try R, but believe me, I can pull the trigger on D at any time. Her 3 brothers, all 3 are pastors, have been supportive of me in this and told me that if I divorced their sister they would certainly understand and that they do not want to lose me. I have told them if we get divorced, they will eventually make up with their sister and I will be history. My comment. Part 2. The final ending of this story will be coming soon. I am working on it as you are watching this story. Sub and bell and it will notify you as soon as the update comes out.